your neighborhood is supposed to be or precautions that you take. You know, as we've been reporting this week, this is the reality. This is our reality. And as Clinton recounted that